fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to home!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It was an action-packed start to the season last time out at Phillip Island 3 weeks ago, but now we jump way across the pond from Australia to Europe. We're racing at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, for round 2 of the V8 Drive Day Southern Cross Esports Championship Series. Looking forward to this one. A Formula One venue with plenty of long straights, flowing corners and great slipstream opportunities in the Porsche 911 RSRs that the field is going to be driving tonight. To bring it all to you live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, with Jay Kennedy alongside me in the commentary box and handling production behind the scenes as well. Jay, we are in Spain and Barcelona, a track that is close to many people's hearts, long-time host of the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix. We are racing on the historic layout for this one, the original layout that the track opened with minus a chicane on the back stretch. But that final sector is beautiful and flowing. And I don't think many people are going to disagree with me when I say it's a better final sector than the Grand Prix layout.
Yeah, for faster cars, the chicane adds a little bit, but for cars that are a little bit more down on straight line speed and down on acceleration in comparison to those open wheelers, that final sector is a lot better on this layout. But big thank you for having me once again, Reese, and I'm looking forward to this one. Last round at Phillip Island was so action-packed. I'm so glad that we're back again. I was a little bit worried that we still had another week to go, and I was very, very excited to see we were back on the schedule for this week. This track, as you said, opened in the early 90s. It feels like this track's been around for a lot longer than that, but it's become an instant classic, and it's been one of the favourite circuits out of the new era of iRacing tracks, and one that has found itself onto nearly every schedule in nearly every season within iRacing.
Yep, a very popular track indeed, and I don't mean to make anyone feel old, but 1991 was over 30 years ago, so this track has been around for a very long time. But there's plenty of good overtaking opportunities around here, particularly into Turn 1, an incredibly long front straight, which should provide some fantastic slipstreaming battles. The drivers are going to be qualifying for 15 minutes, and we've got 2 races once again tonight, a 20-minute and a 40-minute with a reverse top 12 and a compulsory pit stop. I'm looking forward to it because the compulsory pit stop in race 2, especially now, Jay, with this longer format that we're running, it's certainly spiced things up.
Definitely has. It added an extra little strategic element, didn't it? The drivers really didn't have a huge amount of variety in when they could pit on the older format, but adding that extra little bit of length to that second race, it's also meant that positioning yourself very, very well in race 1 has been really important too. Reverse top 12 still, as we've had previously in the previous season, but the extra length of race 2 has meant that that reverse grid hasn't made as much of a difference, but it still is a big advantage. The gap between finishing 12th and 13th in race 1 is huge, and championship points wise it is huge as well. Quickly looking at our schedule before we get into qualifying, looking forward to the next few rounds. A really, really mixed up schedule with Barcelona for this week. Oran Park, Okayama, so a little bit of a Australasian flair. Then we head to the Americas, back to Europe, and then finishing it off at Bathurst. Bathurst was absolutely incredible last season. Daytona was insane last season. Okayama was a surprise packet and thoroughly entertaining last season. What a schedule. This is going to be a great season.
Absolutely it is. I really enjoyed how the racing went off at Phillip Island, and also, like you said, how things went off at Okayama and Bathurst last season. Daytona as well, racing at night. But the drivers are in qualifying at the moment, and Mike Pepper is the driver currently on top of the timesheets. 1 minute 39.092 is the pace being set as of right now. We'll have to go into the low 38s to see what the fastest times were in practice. It was a 1 minute 38.3 from Gianni Lutzu. Tyson Broad here in the final sector. Got to be very careful of Those yellow anti-cut curbs in the final sector, they can definitely ruin your day. Initial lap from Tyson Broad then, 1 minute 40.2. Not quite able to get a time on that lap because it's very easy to get off tracks around here, particularly in that final sector.
Yeah, it is. You can cut the corner just here, which is where the shortcut is for the final chicane on the Formula 1 circuit. You find yourself cutting that very, very aggressively. We'll see cones go flying throughout the race, no doubt. And, we're just seeing a few guys also practicing the pit entry. That will be very, very important when it comes towards the end of the race as we go to Gianni Lutzu, currently sitting in P2. But that gap between he and Mike Pepper, very, very tight at the moment. So that could very easily change. Either way, as Anthony Jewell puts himself up into the top 5.
He does indeed. Good stuff there from Anthony Jewell, who had some good finishes at Phillip Island last time out to open the season. Very difficult corner to get right, this one, across the top of the hill. Formula 1 car takes that almost flat out, but in these Porsche 911 RSRs, the GTE or GTLM machinery, if you're in the States, certainly having to negotiate that with a bit of difficulty. A very long and winding exit to the hairpin on this historic layout. That's what the motorcycles used for a while until the track was reprofiled in 2021. And on board here through the final sector, Lutzu demonstrating just how much you can cut the curb there in the penultimate corner. And this is one of the big points of the lap. See that exit curb that he's just going over now? Very easy to get an off track there. Lutzu, though, sets a 1 minute 39.1, but it doesn't look... Yeah, it has counted. So Lutzu remaining there in second place, but definitely narrowing the gap to Mike Pepper as things stand.
Yeah, got it very, very close, but not quite enough. He didn't need too much more to get that spot to get himself onto provisional pole. Go to Nathaniel Coburn, currently sitting in 23rd. Crosses the line. The lap time does not count. Current best is a 1:41, so we'll be looking to get something better than that on this lap as we see Jewell come into the pits. Very, very aggressive pit entry. And the pit lane speed limit line, a little bit like Okayama that we've seen for some of these guys in this series before. It does catch you out. It is a little bit further down the pit lane than you expect. Can cause some issues as Tyson Broad finally gets on the board for P5. So we watch David Hughes cross the line.
Yeah, David Hughes is currently in the number 75, down in 19th place on a 1 minute 40.3. His fastest lap in practice was a 39.8 though, so there's definitely more potential in there for Hughes. George Curry, meanwhile, takes a lot of the curb on the inside of the final corner. Probably not the greatest line to take, and that's a 1 minute 52.7 there for George. Let's see what Mike Pepper can do then. Currently on provisional pole position with 6 minutes and 35 seconds remaining on the clock. Very long turns here in the first sector, but this hairpin, as you go downhill, definitely one that you can make a passing opportunity at. It's very difficult to get the line right through there and out, as Pepper is demonstrating, getting caught on the grass. I also saw that the rear end was a little bit unstable coming into the hairpin as well. Might be running the brake bias a bit further back, because remember, they are racing on a fixed setup in this series.
Yeah, not much that they can adjust with the fixed setup. So the positive is everyone arrives and drives the same, but the downfall is it doesn't really help if you've got a little bit of a unique driving style. So pros and cons of running fixed setup. I like fixed setup series personally. I think it does, for the most part, even the playing field. It also means that there's less excuses for drivers that the setup's bad because everyone's running the same one. So having an amazing setup isn't necessarily the difference between P1 and P2. So we go to Brody Watts, finished P2 in last season's championship. Tell the top 10 in last season's championship, running that as their car number in this season, which is great, makes it easier for us to remember who finished where. Watts crosses the line. That's an outlap because that was a 2 minute 30. I don't think that one's really representative. Almost a minute off the pace.
Indeed. Well, Either way, making it into turn 1 then will try to improve on what is currently 8th in qualifying at the moment. Just up ahead of him is the number 3 of Mike Pepper. Coming out of the final corner, Anthony Connors. Can he improve on P20? Well, that's definitely an outlap. Dean Hunt, meanwhile, crosses the line, and that's going to be a 41.3 for him. And looks like he's been having a bit of trouble getting those faster times in. Hunt was definitely in the running in and around the top 10 at Phillip Island, so he'll be hoping for a little bit better this time around. What about the likes of Peter Biancucci? You cannot miss him, driving for Loud Signs and in a very loud livery as well.
Yeah, one of the cooler looking liveries out there. In saying that, most of the cars in this series look absolutely incredible. Some fantastic paint jobs done for the drivers in this series. And very, very cool to see how many have done something a little unique in regards to car design as well for this series. Not many running what you consider a standard Porsche livery, which is always cool to see with these incredible cars.
Well, Biancucci will be hoping to improve on 15th place. He's currently on a 1 minute 40.1. That's about a second off the pace at the front. Brodie Watts, meanwhile, coming to the end of that hot lap, and he keeps it within track limits out of the final corner. It's going to be a mid 139 for him, and he'll be reasonably happy with that one. 139.599. It's a small improvement on his 39.6 that he set before, but he is still going to remain in 8th place. Not too far away from Anthony Jewell, though. Gianni Lutzu, meanwhile, starting another hot lap here, and he'll be hoping that he can gain at least a 10th to put himself on provisional pole.
It's probably his last chance as well, because remember, in this series, we're running the heat format, which means once the clock hits 0, that is the end of qualifying. If you're on a lap, too bad, so sad, you don't get to finish it. So you really have to work the clock in your favour and make sure that you can time your runs to the finish line. Because if you don't, you're going to get caught out and someone else is going to get that run in a better way than you. Grant Johnson, he's about to start his final flying lap as well. He'll be looking to move up the field a little bit from where he is, back in 17th position. That's uncharacteristic from him.
Yeah, indeed, and like many drivers I've seen in the session so far, going a bit wide in the final corner. It's very difficult to hook up the line through there, especially with the faster approach on this layout. Nathaniel Coburn moves aside here to give a bit of a better run to the driver behind. And still not improving on his time, but we'll switch over to Clint Harvey, who he gave that clear run down the straight to. Harvey in the number 10 currently is down in 16th place. Watts comes across the line again. It's a 1 minute 39.4, so it's another incremental improvement for Brodie Watts. Nice lap indeed, gains him 2 places.
Yep. We'll see what Lutzu can do. As we said, he actually might get another lap in here because he's still got over that 1 minute 40. And I tell you what,
wow,
might not need another lap because that's P1.
That is indeed, and by some margin too. 2 tenths that he has over Mike Pepper right now. Fantastic lap. Anthony Connors is going to start what will be his final lap, and it looks like he might just be able to get it in at the end of the session if he nails it. Currently down in 17th. Number 3, Mike Pepper, can he respond to Gianni Lutzu's new pole position time? That's going to be the start. That's an outlap that he's done. He's not going to be able to get across the line in time to finish that lap.
No, he's done. Session over. So the best he can start is P2 because he's not going to make it back to the finish line in time. Unfortunate because we know he's got great pace, but in saying that, P2, not a horrible starting position. Ray Oliver does improve. Have a look at that. He's gone from 19th up to 12th. Good lap.
Great improvement there for Ray Oliver, who's one of the guys that helps organise this series. Clint Harvey then to the end of his lap, and that's a 2/10 improvement for him. Does it gain him much in terms of position? Unfortunately, not quite. 17th place he remains, but have a look at Jesse Butler. He's just gone to P2 in the dying moments of the session.
Well, have a look at the gap too.
Yeah, wow, he is only 2 thousandths behind Gianni Lutzu, at least on my timing screen. Shows up as 1,000th of a second on the timing we use on the broadcast. Brilliant stuff there from Jesse Butler.
Absolutely incredible distance between our drivers Rob Crisdale crosses the line for the last time, and he won't get a lap time in at the end. So he is done. Lutzu will cross the line. We said he didn't have much time left. No improvement, but I tell you what, that time he did would have put him P3. Take away his best time, put him P2. So very, very consistent pace. Justin McLean is not going to get to the line in time. Saying that wouldn't have got him up any higher than his 13th that he already had.
Well, let's go through the grid then for the first of our 2 races tonight. On the front row and incredibly close together on 1 lap pace are Gianni Lutzu and Jesse Butler. It's going to be Mike Pepper and Brandon Levin who line up in 3rd and 4th, with Anthony Jewell and Alex Zani rounding out the top 6. And that is going to be a very stacked top 6, very competitive indeed. In 7th place is going to be Trevor Hearn. He starts alongside Brodie Watts. It's Kyle Ridley and Tyson Broad, 9th and 10th. Then it's Robert Crisdale and Ray Oliver who round out the top 12.
Yeah, from there we go back to Justin McLean and Ross Thalen. We've got Sam Duara and Peter Biancucci. Biancucci a little bit further back than he'd be happy with. Clint Harvey and Anthony Connors on row number 9. Row 10, it's been Brazier and Neil Woodburn, with David Hughes and Cameron Edwards on row 11. Grant Johnson way back in the field. That's 23rd position on row 12 alongside Dean Hunt. We go back to Nathaniel Coburn and George Corey rounding out the field. 00 and the 20 of Sutton Baker and Allen. Those guys are sitting in the race control booth. Hopefully they have a very, very quiet night.
Indeed. Well, if there's a big enough incident out on track that requires a safety car, they will bring their Porsche Cayman GT4s out on the circuit to corral the field and make sure that everyone is bunched up for a restart. Now, excuse me, thinking of Rob Crisdale starting out of 11th place, he got a double podium last time out at Phillip Island, so he'll be expecting a little bit better from that, hopefully, for him. He'll be able to get the slipstream down the straight and work his way up through the field, because he was on top form at Phillip Island.
Yeah, he definitely was. He had a great round at Phillip Island. And, the reverse grid, though, can play into some guys' minds throughout this first race. If they're struggling to overtake, they'll just take the position and use that race 2 reverse top 12, knowing that they're gaining a few spots. So we could see some gamesmanship happening with that as the field starts to pull away for this rolling start. 20 minutes on the clock when we cross the line. It's going to be highly entertaining. We're looking at a 13-lap race 1.
Short and sweet before we get into the 40-minute race 2. And as you can see, it is a short formation lap here. Barcelona is one of the tracks on iRacing that's long enough that you have the option to grid up on the back straight and minimize the time spent pacing behind the iRacing safety car controlled by an AI. And you can already see they're leaving plenty of space here for the safety car to pull into the pits. I think Gianni Lutzu might be gearing up to go early here, potentially before the final corner. Let's see what they end up doing then. Lutzu versus Butler on the front row. A very close section of times in qualifying. We'll wait for the green flag to fly. Gianni Lutzu goes early out of the final corner. Green flag flies, and we are racing at Barcelona for round 2 of Southern Cross Esports for 2022. Mike Pepper didn't get off to the best start. He's held up Anthony Jewell there in a straight line. Jewell might try to go through the middle here, get the position on Pepper and Butler. No, he gets on the brakes nice and early. It's a dive to the inside from Trevor Hearn, meanwhile. Tries to make his way past Alex Zani. Zani leaves a little bit of room there going into turn 3. Good start, but oh, that was a big mistake there. Anthony Jewell going for a big slide in turn 3, and it looks like that was contact with Mike Pepper.
Yeah, there was a little bit of contact there, but both saved it very, very well, which is good to see. In saying that, how's that for a commentator's curse? As soon as I said so they saved it, we got Broad in the wall, we got Oliver in the wall, and also got Brodie Watts in the wall as well.
That's a big shame. 3 cars out now. Thanks to that incident, it looks like they've all managed to get going, but Nathaniel Coburn has also had some issues, as well as Dean Hunt and George Corey. It looks like there were 6 cars ultimately in the gravel at turn 4.
Yeah, there's definitely been more involved than we saw. There's actually been a second incident as part of that. We'll get a replay up on screen in just a moment. But the front hasn't split away as much as we may have expected. We often see in these sort of races where front two, front three pull away a huge margin. They're not really doing that. They're just sort of all single file running. Nobody's breaking away, which is good to see, but it also means that it does bring in the potential for an incident to happen as we see some side-by-side back in the field. This is Kyle Ridley, Ross Allen and Sam Duara just behind, trying to take advantage as well.
Well, Fallon very wide through the final corner. Not going to help him with the exit onto the front straight here. But they're all in a line, all fighting for these positions. Is there going to be any kind of move? I see Clint Harvey pulling out to pass Sam Darua coming into turn one, and Harvey's very late on the brakes. He's going to get Fallon too, maybe. Oh, a little bit deep, very close to contact, but they keep it together.
Yeah, very, very nice job to not make contact in the end there, because that was extremely tight, extremely close to making contact. And if there was contact there, it may have taken out 4 or 5 cars, as they're still side by side. Going into turn 4 is Peter Bancucci up the inside of Anthony Connors, who has Cam Edwards just behind to try and steal a spot away. Isn't able to do so. And saying that, we said down the hill is where you can make a move. Cam Edwards didn't do it the turn before, but took advantage, got the momentum, used the downhill, gets it done.
Nice fire up the inside there from Edwards. He moves up into 15th place, and remember, he started outside the top 20, so he's making good moves. On the right-hand side of your screen is the replay of the incident here. Brody Watts had some contact made with him, which resulted in him overshooting going into turn 4, and unfortunately taking a couple of cars with him there, including Tyson Broad. Oh. So, yeah, that's a big shame. Hang on a moment. Was that Clint Harvey who's gone into the sandpit?
Yeah, so Clint Harvey's gone for a little bit of an excursion and building sandcastles at the exit, or at the middle of the hairpin. Of course, one of the other corners that's a huge noticeable difference from the Formula One layout, at least the Formula One layout of this iRacing.
Ross Allen was very lucky not to get cleaned up there. So, we'll move on here to the midfield. That's the number 6 of Justin McLean in 9th place at the moment, and he's chasing down Rob Crisdale, who's making some moves. It looks like McLean's had a bit of an issue. Is that a slowdown that he's picked up? I'm not too sure. But either way... No, come on, no.
And if you're going to take anyone out by not concentrating, the main admin of the series is not one of the people to do it to.
Certainly not.
I think you're right, though. I think that was a slowdown penalty that he was trying to clear and hasn't really done a very, very good job.
All right, well, we'll check it out here with from Cameron Edwards' perspective. We saw that he was trying to get back up to speed, but I think he just forgot where the braking zone was for the corner and just went right into Edwards. So that's unfortunate there for Cameron. He was making some good moves through the field. Unfortunately, he's going to have to do all of that work all over again. He's back down into 21st as a result of that.
That's really unfortunate, but yeah, as you said, it was just a complete lapse in concentration. He was probably worrying about making sure he cleared the slowdown by the braking point, then realised, oh, hang on, the braking point is here, and by the time he's realised that, too late, and incident happened. No doubt race control will deal with that one very, very, very quickly, as we're on board here with Rob Crisdale. I tell you what, he's got that done.
Just about. Oh, take it easy. It's Anthony Jewell that he's battling with there, and Jewell with the inside for turn 3. They make contact, and Crisdale will lose an awful lot of pace through the corner thanks to that. That's it's not going to go down too well, but I think there wasn't much damage out of that. It was just a slight tap. It's very easy for that to happen in turn 3. It's such a long and never-ending corner, and the left side tyres get burnt up as you go through there.
Definitely do. And you can maintain that side-by-side quite a lot, but as you do, the tyre temperature increases so much because you've got the extra load on the tyre because of the extra turning capacity you need to do, the narrower radius of the side-by-side. Back to the battle for third and fourth. The first and second place cars are Lutzu and Butler. They've checked out a little bit. Mike Pepper hasn't been able to stick with them. Brandon Levin slowly closing the gap in, isn't he? He's just there, not quite able to get close enough to make the move, but he's close enough that Mike Pepper is a little bit concerned about him.
Indeed he is. And through the final corner, let's see what kind of run Levin can pick up. Trevor Hearn also shows up on my timing as part of this battle, so he might be closing in on those guys. Gianni Lutzu is the fastest car on track at the moment, 1 minute 39.4. Looks like Levin is just a little bit too far back to make the draft pass work into turn 1, but tries widening the entry to the corner as much as he possibly can. And we were talking about how the left side tyres burn up through this long turn 3. Well, not helping that is the track temperature. It's 50 degrees Celsius, Jay.
Yeah, no, I'll stay in the air conditioning comfort of the commentary box and go out there and sunbake on the track. That's the sort of conditions you don't want to go out there in thongs and t-shirt and shorts, because you'll get burnt toes out there and your shoes will melt. Sam Duara just had a little bit of a moment as he just lost a spot there to Peter Biancucci. They were very, very close to making heavy contact, but did avoid it. Just behind Tyson Broad on his drive back through the field after lap 1. He's now back up into 13th. Remember, the magic number is P12. He's only 1 spot away from reverse grid pole.
Yeah, well, if he keeps making up positions like he is, then, it looks like a slowdown. Slowdown for Biancucci. Was that contact? I'm going back and checking. Actually, yeah, Biancucci, he overshot the chicane just before that point. So, very lucky not to clean up Sam Darua on the re-entry. Biancucci's thinking, I can try my best to get some of these positions back, but he's picked up a bit of ghost damage from that as well, which is certainly not going to be helping the aerodynamic capabilities of that car.
There's 2 parts to that whole thing that we were watching there. Pick it up on the replay, but he'd made the move, as we said, the corner before. He'd made the move just under the bridge here at turn 4. A little bit of a mistake there from Sam Duara. Look at how dusty the outside of the track is. Offline there, he's so dusty. From that lap 1 incident, the amount of dirt that's been brought out onto the track is absolutely incredible. We'll stay on the replay so you can see the mistake there, because we were watching Broad trying to make his way through. I'll tell you what, when we come back to live here too, the battle's ongoing, but just a little error right there. Couldn't get the first apex, and there's the damage that will be on his car just from that tiny curb. It does cause a little bit more damage than you expect.
And there goes Tyson Broad up into 11th place, passes Darua. The very close battling behind here in the midfield, I have to say. All of these cars in a line behind Biancucci. There's a bit of a mistake from Anthony Connors. Goes off into the gravel trap and losing, I think, about 4 or 5 places as a result of that. Already carrying some damage on his front bumper. This battle for 13th will certainly continue to make waves with Hughes, Biancucci, Oliver and Woodburn all in a line. We have got a penalty that's come in for Justin McLean, and I would presume that that's for the lap 1 turn 4 incident.
Yeah, he's involved in that one for sure, so definitely part of that is Biancucci trying to get himself back up the field. Tam Duara now in P12, but he's already lost a huge amount of ground back to Tyson Broad, so he's falling backwards in this field. Ray Oliver's one that's moving up through the field as well. Remember, he qualified a little bit out of sequence, looking to take advantage of a few positions. Of course, was involved in that major incident at the start as well. Been some decent movers in the field, though. David Hughes, who we just saw at the front of this group, he's up 8 spots, our biggest mover in this race so far.
And chasing down Sam Darua for that 12th place. Biancucci defending from Ray Oliver. And it looks like just keeping him behind for now, but Oliver is going to try the over-under with a little bit of a wider turn in for turn 3. Doesn't quite pick up the throttle as well as Biancucci does in the bright blue machine. Very late on the brakes, though. Easy does it. That's a bit of a lock-up there for Ray Oliver, and a bit of a mistake. Even bigger mistake down at the hairpin just up the road. That's Anthony Jewell that has gone for a bit of an adventure. And Jewell, after qualifying in 5th, not having the best of races right now.
No, he's not. He's had a shocking couple of laps. He's dropped a couple of spots prior to that incident, and then this one here is just a little lockup all on his lonesome, which is absolutely disastrous in this circumstance. You don't want to be making those sort of errors in these races when the field is... When you're right at the front and you only lose 3 seconds of track time to lose 5, 6, 7 positions, that is huge. I tell you what, this is intense, this battle though. Oliver and Biancucci. I don't know who my money's on here, but I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I am too. Biancucci is definitely not having the best of times in that car at the moment with that slight bit of damage and struggling a little bit to get it through those long, fast corners. Oliver definitely seems to be the one with the pace right now, picking up the slipstream down the straight. Is he going to go for the dive at turn 1? Well, Biancucci, nice and late on the brakes, keeps him behind. There's a big look from Oliver, I have to say, but doesn't look like he's going to pick that up as we check our way further up the field. Jesse Butler is now coming under attack here from Mike Pepper. Pepper took 3/10 just about out of Butler on the last lap, so this will be interesting to see how the battle for second pans out.
Yeah, the last couple of laps, Jesse Butler hasn't matched Gianni Lutzu, and Mike Pepper's pace has almost matched Lutzu's, so there is a noticeable pace difference between those two as David Hughes, Sam Duara swap position. So Hughes now up into the magical P12, which is great for him. And, he'll be hoping he continues that charge forward, as we just saw two, Ross Thalen and Tyson Broad side by side through the one corner on the track. I don't think anyone would want to go side by side through the kink onto that back inside straight. It's a tough enough corner at the best of time, but side by side with another car, not where you want to be. It's getting very, very intense here as Broad trying to make his way back through the field. We've seen in previous races, Ross Thalen has not been an easy car to get past. He knows how to defend his spots.
Yeah, you're seeing that in action right here. Broad is struggling to find a way past. Don't pick up that curb. The big yellow sausage on the way into the final corner. Otherwise, that will completely ruin your run. Let's see what Thalen can do to keep Broad behind him here, battling for 10th place. Thalen is up 3 spots, and Broad trying to get 10th place back after starting in that place. And a move up the inside into turn 1 will certainly get that done.
Yeah, nice move in the end there. Got it done relatively easy. In saying that, Thalen might come back here. Oh, that was a little bit closer than I was thinking it was going to be. Thalen will be content, though, with this at the moment. He'll know that doesn't have to stress too much about Hughes behind. Hughes is quicker, but probably not enough time left on the clock to close that down. But I tell you what, battle is close enough now. The battle for second. Last lap by almost identical pace, but a little error from Butler on the start of this lap did bring them together. Error there from Pepper has now brought Levin and Hearn into this. So we've now got a true 4-car battle. Hone's lives matter because they just got destroyed. Butler, Pepper, Levin and Hearn going at it for second.
Yeah, this is pretty fantastic. With only 5 minutes left in the race, this has absolutely flown by, hasn't it? There's been so much action out there. I thought we'd only be 10 minutes in, but it turns out 15 minutes have been completed. So this battle for second will work itself out, but it's actually a battle for third at the moment here between Pepper and Levin. Let's see what they can do coming down the long start finish straight. It's going to be a nice pickup of the draft here from Brandon Levin. Jesse Butler has managed to pull away enough that he doesn't have to worry too much about these guys, and if they go side by side, it'll only bring the advantage further forward for Jesse Butler. Getting a replay here. Oh. That's a shame there. Ran a little bit too much over the curb on the entry, which really unsettled the car. There's not much grip out there on the, the bright green tarmac.
Positive to look at, sorry, Reese. He's currently P12. Yeah. So, I mean, sure, it's shocking that he's lost a few spots, but if you're going to lose spots, don't go any lower than 12th.
Yeah, exactly right. And considering Jules' pace, he might be able to get back past David Hughes, and Hughes will resume the 12th spot. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, I've just seen some big contact in the battle between Biancucci and Oliver. Oliver just went right into the rear of Biancucci. They preserved the positions, but all the same, that was a bit of a hair-raising moment.
Yeah, I've just seen it too. We'll get it on the VRS replay in just a moment. It was a very, very heavy hit into the downhill.
Ugh.
I don't know who's at fault there. I know one was in too deep and one was too early on the brakes, but I don't know which one was in the right and which one was in the wrong. I think it's one of those situations where they're both, one's gone in too hot and one's gone in too gentle at the same time, and it's caused the incident.
Well, neither of them have lost any positions as a result of that, so I would say no harm, no foul. But this fight for third place will continue for the next couple of laps, because Brandon Levin trying to line up Mike Pepper here. Bit of a wider turn in for 3, try and straighten the run through the corner and get a better exit. Pepper not using all of the road on the exit. Usually you run out to the white line, and a very narrow turn in for turn 4. Seems that he's managing to hold on to that pace though. He's going to leave the door open here. A little bit of a look from Levin, who locks up, and that's contact. Pepper gets sent into the gravel trap, and that puts Trevor Hearn up into third place. Brandon Levin doing the sportsman-like thing and allowing Mike Pepper to continue on there. But goodness gracious, those guys have just cost themselves bulk positions. They are now 7th and 8th as a result of this.
Yep. Get another look at it here. This corner just entices that, doesn't it? I mean, the natural flow of the corner opens it up so that you feel like there's an opportunity to take a position. Often there's no position that you can take, and it just results in these messy, messy incidents. And we're going to see it again in the next race too. It doesn't matter what car, what combination it is at this track. It happens, and it happens a lot. Now, big question here is Gianni Lutsu crosses the line with 1 minute 41 on the clock. Is this the last lap or not? I don't know. We saw last night in AOG where we didn't realise that the clock had succumbed to us, and we were a lap short of our original count. Well, tonight we know we're going by time, but is that the last lap now, or have we still got one more to go? It's very, very line ball.
Yeah, that it is. If Lutsu backs off just a little bit into one of these corners, which he can certainly afford to with a 4.2 second lead, then that will probably make this lap the final one. But
well, if he hasn't received the white flag, he will have another lap, because you have to receive the white flag to get the check-in.
I see. Righto. Well, this fight with Ray Oliver and Peter Biancucci is showing no signs of slowing down. Different lines on the way into turn 3, a bit tighter for Peter Biancucci, but he holds on to it with a bit of a shorter line through the whole corner. And Oliver's been trying desperately to get this move done. Clearly, he's able to be more confident on the brakes than Biancucci is, but it's just not working out for him. Biancucci tries to widen out the exit. No, once again at this hairpin. Biancucci, though, turns across him. And Oliver has tried that move a few times now at that very corner. Just hasn't worked out for him. I think his best opportunity is going to be at the next hairpin, which is just one corner away now as Biancucci makes a mistake. Off into the gravel, off the curb, and that is 4 positions lost there for him. Make that 5, actually. Very unfortunate. Biancucci now down at a 19th place, but it doesn't look like he's going to lose any more, as crossing the line to start the final lap is Gianni Lutsu.
And half a second on the clock.
Man, that's all it is. And it's been nothing short of a dominant performance here from Gianni. Certainly had to work for the win at Phillip Island, but I have to say, here at Barcelona, he and Butler may have been close in qualifying, but when it comes to race pace, Lutsu's just been able to look after those tyres, keep them nice and cool, and keep up a great run of pace. This fight is still going on, though, here for 10th place. We look at David Hughes in 11th. He's trying to chase down Ross Thalen. They got Anthony Jewell and Sam Dalrua just behind them, who will certainly take advantage if they come together. Ray Oliver in 14th place with Brody Watts trying to make up positions after getting sent off the circuit in turn 4 on lap 1.
Yeah, they're not far away from Anthony Jewell as well. If these two work together for this lap, they may catch up to the back of Jewell and actually apply pressure for that magic P12. Or if a mistake happens between Thalon and Hughes, they could find themselves in P12 as well. But what an amazing battle they've had. And talking about tyres, I think some of these guys have been using this first race to understand the tyre life as well, especially with such a hot track, understanding how the tyres are going to perform come the end of the 40-minute race. Of course, they do have to stop for tyres, but understanding when they need to pit, very, very important. What a drive, though, from Lutzu. Brilliant.
One more corner to go, half a corner, no corners to go, and Lutzu will weave across the track to celebrate another victory in Southern Cross Esports. Jesse Butler holds on for second place. It was a nice quiet drive for him, worked out brilliantly. Trevor Hearn, though, in third place, taking advantage of the contact between Mike Pepper and Brandon Levin. Certainly will be happy with that, but in 12th place, it looks like it is going to be Anthony Jewell. Unfortunately, Sam Darua not able to get himself closer to that battle, and Brody Watts will fend off Ray Oliver for 14th place. Goodness gracious, that was another pretty action-packed race, wasn't it, Jay?
100%. That was intense. That was brilliant. Thoroughly entertaining. And guess what? We can do it all again in 5 or 6 minutes' time when they go back out there for race number 2 over 40 minutes. We'll get the race results up on screen.
So Gianni Lutzu takes victory by nearly 5 seconds over Jesse Butler. It's Trevor Hearn who gets into third place, with Alex Zanni and Rob Crisdale rounding out the top 5. Excellent drive from Crisdale, avoided the chaos, and from outside the top 10 to 5th, he'll be happy with that. Kyle Ridley finishes in 6th with Mike Pepper and Brandon Levin in 7th and 8th, with the top 10 rounded out by Tyson Broad and Ross Thalen.
Yeah, from there we go back to decides to load. There we go. David Hughes in 11th, Anthony Jewell, Magic P number 12, just beating off Sam Darua and Brody Watts, with Ray Oliver behind. Cam Edwards had a race of what could have been ups and downs and all around in that one. Finishes, though, in 16th position after being as high as P10 and being way back in the field in the mid-20s at some points as well. Clint Harvey in 17th, Neil Woodburn in 18th, Brent Brazier in 19th, with Anthony Connors in 20th. Then we had Johnson, who had a shocker, unfortunately, as well. Hunt, Biancucci, Corey, Coburn, and McLean all had issues throughout that race. They'll all be looking for redemption as we get into the next one, race number 2, 40 minutes on the clock.
Absolutely, and before we get into that 40-minute race too, let's take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsors here at the Southern Cross Esports League. First of all, V8 Drive Day Perth, Perth's greatest driving experience. They offer rides and hot laps and specially prepared V8 race cars around Wanneroo Raceway. You can be the passenger or the driver in the closest thing you can get to what Australia's best do every weekend. Visit them and book your session at v8driveday.com.au. Meanwhile, West Australian Automotive Equipment specialises in everything you need for your workshop, from hand tools to car hoists and everything in between. Better yet, they deliver Australia-wide. Call them on 9303 9068 or head to automotiveequipmentwa.com.au. Tonight's racing is also brought to you by Word of Mouth Signs. Pip Allen works to provide the best in signs and graphics, doing everything from vinyl wraps for cars, vans, premises and much more to laser engraving and graphic design. No job too small. Head over to wordofmouthsigns.com.au or call on 0400 551 555. V-Race Experience is Perth's best full-motion simulator experience, located in the heart of Osborne Park. They use Motum simulators, professional hardware and class-leading virtual reality goggles so you can race like a pro and get fully immersed. To find out more, go to vrace.com.au. Speaking of Motum Simulation, we'd like to welcome them to the sponsor roster. Their unique patented True Motion technology delivers 6 degrees of freedom in a fully immersive VR environment. They deliver simulation solutions across Australia and internationally, working with many leading brands. To learn more about them, head to motumsimulation.com. And finally, tonight's racing would not be possible without 24/7 Sim Services, who are handling race control tonight. They're an independent provider of live race control, rulebooks, officiating and more on all sim racing platforms. Check them out at 247simservices.com. Well, now, Jay, we think about race 2 with that compulsory pit stop. It's going to be crucial for the drivers to keep an eye on the clock because the pit window opens once 5 minutes of the race have been completed and it closes with 5 minutes to go. And we saw a couple of drivers nearly come a cropper of that over at Phillip Island. There's only going to be a half an hour window here in this race for you to get into the lane.
Yeah, there were some post-race penalties handed out after that as well due to a couple of drivers missing the marker on the pit lane window. So I'm sure everyone's all over that, had the refresher. A few guys that may not have realised, some guys that definitely would have forgotten from last season. But I'm sure this week everyone will remember and we won't see anyone breach that rule. At least fingers crossed we won't see anyone breach that rule. If someone does, well, we've reminded everyone many times that that's the rule and it's on them now.
That it is. We have done our job. It's going to be the job of the drivers in the pit lane to take all 4 tyres. That is the idea. Fuel not necessarily required in these cars, but you do have to change all 4 tyres when you're in the pit lane. So I think we did briefly touch on tyre life with this incredibly hot track that we've got tonight. Well, the drivers, I think, won't have to worry about completely burning out their tyres, but they are still going to have to work to keep those temperatures in the range they need.
Yeah, 100%. They're not going to be ridiculously all over the place by the end of their stints, but as you said, the tyre life will be noticeably different. But I think the way that some of those guys raced that race there, they were pushing fairly hard to understand how much the grip does go away. We saw around about 1.5 second per lap drop off as well, so that was fairly noticeable as well. I was a little surprised by how much drop off there was, but in saying that, those guys did manage those tyres pretty well as well.
That they did. Well, the checkered flag flies on the warm-up session and we can get into the grid for race 2. No surprise to see that having finished 12th in race 1, it is going to be Anthony Jewell who starts on pole position, alongside the number 75 of David Hughes. Ross Thalen and Tyson Broad on the second row, with Brandon Levin and Mike Pepper in 5th and 6th. They'll be hoping that they don't come together in this one. Kyle Ridley and Rob Crisdale will start 7th and 8th, with Alex Zanni and Trevor Hearn rounding out the top 10. Jesse Butler and Gianni Lutsu, our top 2 from the previous race, 11th and 12th.
Yeah, one thing about these races is watching those guys that were very, very quick in race 1 work their way through the field, and fingers crossed we don't see those incidents back in the field as well that we saw, and hopefully we see some very, very awesome battles and passes. Sam Duara and Brody Watts with Ray Oliver, Cameron Edwards, Clint Harvey, Neil Woodburn on rows 7, 8 and 9 as they finished, with Ben Brazier, Anthony Connors, Grant Johnson. He'll not be wanting to look back on this night too fondly at this stage. Qualified 23rd. I mean, he did gain 2 spots, but that's still not enough by his standards. He'll be looking for redemption in this one. With Dean Hunt, Peter Bancucci, another driver looking for redemption. George Corey, and then we've got Nathaniel Coburn. Justin McLean, who did get that penalty from early on in the race, did park the car, and we'll start this one from the final row of the grid. As the drivers start to pull away, we get ready to get back into racing action.
Yes, once again, it is the short formation lap, so we're going to be getting things going pretty quickly here. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of run Anthony Jewell gets here off the start. David Hughes knows that Jewell had his issues in the first race, so he'll be trying to pressure him into another mistake potentially on these opening laps, depending on the jump that Jewell gets once the pace car enters the pit lane, which it does presently. So, side by side through the final corner, when does Anthony Jewell decide to put the hammer down and get things started for the 40-minute race 2 here in round 2 of the Southern Cross Esports Summer Series? A great jump from Jewell, but it looks like the rest of the field got concertinaed a little bit. Not the best of starts there from David Hughes. Ross Thalen is alongside him coming into the first turn, and it's a big dive to the inside for Tyson Broad. He's going to make it 3 wide for second on the way into turn 1, manages to get the move done nicely and cleans up Oh, yeah, there's going to be potentially some dramas here. Oh, dear. Looks like most of the drivers have made it cleanly through those first couple of turns, but it's going to be turn 4 that is the big choke point here, side by side between Mike Pepper and Ross Thalen. Pepper defending. It's very late on the brakes for Rob Crisdale, who's trying to make up positions just behind them, as that's a huge incident, huge smash. Sam Dalrua getting involved with Clint Harvey there.
Yeah, we also saw at the start, before turn 1, Ben Brazier was facing the wrong way, but he has recovered and is back going again. But a little bit of a messy start in that secondary phase of the group, but the front of the field extremely clean, and Tyson Broad with a great launch, already up 2 spots and already trying to find his way up into P1 before the end of the first lap.
It's been a magnificent first lap here for Tyson Broad. He is chasing down Anthony Jewell, something fierce, and look at how late he is on the brakes as it's side by side. Further back for 6th place, Gianni Lutsu making up those places. Brandon Levin's going to try and follow him through there on Ross Thalen. The P2 finisher from the previous race, Jesse Butler, trying around the outside of Kyle Ridley. You definitely can't miss Butler. He's that bright yellow and blue machine. And this is going to be slightly compromising. Oh, they almost make contact, but they keep it in line. This is going to be a good draft here for Butler. Let's see what he can do.
Yep, will be a good draft. This is a great drafting track with those 2 long straights. And this straight here, also with the slight downhill braking zone, means that you can send it a lot further than you can at other tracks. I must say, Jesse Butler looking very, very content with 1, and I don't think he's going to push for the 2nd. Probably a smart move, because if he had sent it there on Ross Thalen, I think that may have ended in disaster for both.
It would have, and it's a longer race, so you can afford to take your time with certain moves. But have a look at how close it is for the lead now coming into turn 4. Broad is chasing down Anthony Jewell and picking up on the last lap. It was something like 0.4 of a second. It's only half a second gap between them here. Now we'll see how the draft is down this back stretch, whether or not Broad will be able to line it up. He's being very aggressive with the curbs as well. He's going to have to be careful of that.
Yeah, he will have to be careful, because we saw Peter Bancucci get damaged from just bouncing it over the curbs at that chicane. So a little bit too much aggression over that curb will end in disaster. As you see a car off on the inside there, that's Ben Brazier. He's having tech issues. He's been having some tech issues all night, but also still having issues from getting himself back around. Also just seeing too, I don't know if you've noticed this yet, Reese, but Gianni Lutsu has a black flag. Now, that will be from one of 2 things, a jump start or not clearing a slowdown penalty. I'm going to guess that it's not from clearing a slowdown penalty at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, potentially. I'm going back through his laps here to see if he ended up making any mistakes. It's not entirely obvious where that slowdown came in. Now that's very odd there for Gianni.
My only thinking is the second last corner on the first lap, but in saying that, that's not, doesn't look too bad. I'm also looking back as well, so I can't see anything that's too abnormal from that lap.
You know what I think it is. On a rolling start in iRacing, you can't pass cars in your line before the start-finish line. Lutsu got off to a great start and ended up passing Trevor Hearn before they crossed the line to start lap 1. That might be it.
Yes, he did too. Just seen that as well. We'll get that on a replay in just a second. But yeah, you're right. He's overtaking cars before the start of the race.
Yeah, well, you are able to pass for position on cars that are starting alongside you, but not cars that are starting in front of you. So that's a big shame there for Gianni. That'll put him out of contention for the race win completely. On the right side of your screen, you'll see it. Lutsu got a great jump, but not entirely the way you should go there on a rolling start.
It wasn't even close. He was a full car length ahead by the time they got to the actual line.
Yeah. Oh, well. Them's the breaks sometimes. Jewell versus Broad at the front of the field. It's gone down a little bit more. Yeah.
Cut and dry penalty within iRacing as he comes into the pits. The positive is that he's past the 35-minute mark remaining in the race, so he potentially could do his stop and go while he's doing his stop and hold. So I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen at this point. He comes in, serve his 40-second stop and hold, and also do his drive-through. Speaking of drive-through, sorry, his pit stop while he's doing his penalty serving. Speaking of penalties, we've got one coming in from race control for lap 1. Then Harvey's been issued with a black flag.
Yeah, and I'll explain the reason why. Coming into turn 4, Harvey just completely missed the braking point and went across the front of 2 cars. Sam Darua was the one who came off the worst from that. Harvey went right into him, so no surprise that there's a slam dunk penalty for race control from that. I'm seeing there might be an issue for Ross Thalen and Kyle Ridley. Thalen, in particular, falling down the field. He's in the gravel trap.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can work out exactly what happened there. But yeah, Ridley also involved. And that's a little bit disastrous for those two because they were working their way forward. And slowly but surely gaining spots. And Sullen's had a bit of a tough night as a whole. He'll be looking for a little bit of redemption, but it's not going to come tonight, unfortunately.
No, looks like going down into the hairpin of turn 5, Thalen was a bit late on the brakes and tapped Kyle Ridley around. We'll get it on the VRS replay here. Thalen focusing on trying to pass this car and just got on the brakes a little too late. A bit of a lock-up and into Ridley he went.
Yep. See all the smoke coming in. He still couldn't pull it up by the time he got to the wall as well. So actually at the wall with a decent amount of pace on him. Mike Pepper trying to make a move here on David Hughes into turn 1. Forced to the outside for 2. Now leaves himself susceptible to Rob Crisdale and Brandon Levin and also Jesse Butler.
It was a good run by Crisdale around the outside, able to pick up the throttle a little straighter on the outside of turn 3, but turn 4 not being particularly kind to him. He does still hold on to the inside for turn 5 though, so it looks like this might be a clear move up into 4th place for Rob Crisdale, and it is. Mike Pepper having to deal with the pressure from Brandon Levin, who might have the inside for the chicane here, but it's not really a passing opportunity. Very open set of corners this one, so they're going to stay as they are for the time being. It has opened Levin up to an attack from Butler, though, who we ride on board with coming down the back stretch. How late are these drivers going to push it in the braking zone for the hairpin? I see Crisdale just up ahead, diving up the inside of David Hughes, and he gets it done beautifully on the inside. Hughes gave him a lot of room there, but it looks like he might open himself up to Mike Pepper passing him. Pepper on the outside through this very long corner. Slight bit of understeer, it seems, for David Hughes, but straighter exit for Mike Pepper. He will likely take that position there. Hughes just lifts off and lets him have it.
I was actually thinking there, with the way that Hughes' car was positioned, it might not be a bad idea for him to just jump in the pits and get out of the action, but he's decided to stay out. The positive to staying out at this point is you do save a dash of fuel if you've underfueled your car, or you started just with a little bit short. Does help you out in that aspect. Saying that, most of the guys will start with the full tank. Not worry. Maybe Hughes right now is thinking maybe I should have pitted.
Yeah, that's a big shame there, and it looks like it was contact there as Levin was trying up the inside. There's Ray Oliver making up the position there on the recovering Hughes. Oliver up 4 places now and into P11, and just behind them you see Justin McLean. Well, he's doing some good work in this race, recovering well from the penalty and subsequent retirement from race 1. He is now up 13 places. He's cut the field in half as McLean makes his way up from the back of the grid. Here's another look then at that incident.
So, I mean, definitely up the inside. B-pillar rules probably pretty close. I think race control will have a little bit of a tough time looking at that one and analysing that one. So, one of those ones that I'm happy to be in this seat and not in the race control booth.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I did see that Hughes was already committing to the turn-in for turn 1 by the time Levin got nearly alongside him. I mean, there was a little bit of overlap, but yeah, I think that's borderline, really. It'll be interesting to see what decision race control makes on that one. Tyson Broad, meanwhile, has not quite been able to pass Anthony Jewell, has he? This gap has stayed pretty constant at about 2 to 5 tenths of a second. now that they're really in a rhythm and doing these laps, the tyres have certainly come up to temperature and probably beyond operating temperature with how hot the track is. Maybe Broad's having a bit of trouble here trying to keep the pace up.
Potentially, but in saying that, Gianni Lutsu's just done the fastest lap of the race on his fresh tyres, and these guys nowhere near the pace that he set. So tyres may not be the factor. It may just be conservation mode. Could be that Broad is just thinking points at this point. No point making a move that you're not 100% sure of. If it's 99% sure, well, there's no point risking that 1%. And try and take the points while you can, especially with Lutsu having a potentially bad result here. So I think he's thinking long-term gain and small-town pain right now. P2, not a bad result. You'd take it nearly every race. If you finish P2 in every single race in a championship, chances are you're going to win the thing. So he'll be thinking that at the moment. Anthony Connors and Ross Thallon have both received black flags. Thallon, no surprise in that one after we saw that incident at turn 5 earlier. One for Anthony Connors I wasn't too sure about. We'll try and work out what happened there.
We shall indeed. I'll check back and see what I can find. But yeah, definitely short-term pain, long-term gain for Tyson Broad. He won race 2 at Phillip Island, so certainly has a win on the board this season. I've just seen what happened to Anthony Connors. It was contact with Neil Woodburn on lap 4 at the third last corner, and looked like a very optimistic dive.
Yeah, I've just found it as well, and we'll pick it up on the Virtual Racing School replay. So side by side at the exit of the hairpin at turn 10. Then, as you said, optimistic. I mean, the flow of the corner does lend itself to making you think that there's a gap open, but it's purely the flow of the corner as opposed to an actual legitimate passing opportunity. So, unfortunately there for Anthony, know what he was trying to do, but just not doing it in a way that worked efficiently for both drivers. Pays the price. Back to Broad here. He'll be just thinking now about points. I mean, we're only in round 2, but the fact that these seasons are very, very short, only 8 rounds, you're looking to capitalise on every single race you can. Your opponent having one bad race could be the difference between you winning and losing a championship. We saw that in the last season. The difference between winning and losing a championship was the driver going on holidays.
Yeah, exactly right. That was Gianni Lutsu who went on holiday and allowed Trevor Leonard to take the driver's title. We were saying before we went live, we were expecting Trevor Leonard to turn up for round 2, but it seems he is absent once again. So I think at this point, our defending series champion will not be doing much defending.
No, he's got a tough ask ahead of him. He's got to defend the championship from this point. So he'll be looking for race wins when he comes back to the season. Hopefully he'll be back for next round, and it'd be good to have him back in the series once again, because the races he participated in last season were absolutely brilliant and his driving was impeccable as well. So looking forward to seeing him back in the series. Race Control have made a verdict on that incident between Brandon Levin and the other driver was...
It was...
David Hughes?
David Hughes, yes.
Yeah, so Brandon Levin has been given a black flag penalty for that incident at turn 1.
Right, so he's made a tour through the lanes, 16.5 second lane time, as that is a big problem.
Grant Johnson is not having a good night.
No, he's not. I think these hot track temperatures are not being too kind to him. And wow, this is looking interesting, isn't it? Peter Biancucci with Dean Hunt, David Hughes and Kyle Ridley along with him. And Hughes having just come... lost those couple of places. Losing one again potentially here to Kyle Ridley. Going to keep it up the inside into the hairpin, but it looks like Ridley is the one with the pace on the exit. So those 4 cars will continue fighting. They still have yet to pit. And speaking of pits, it has occurred to me, Jay, that with these hot track temperatures, we saw that Gianni Lutsu, once he pitted, he had that great pace on those fresh tyres. A tyre undercut could be the reason Tyson Broad is staying behind Anthony Jewell for the race lead.
Yeah, 100%. He could be pushing this as long as he can and try and use that better tyre right at the end of the race. Very, very big potential, but we've seen overcuts work in these cars too. So we're seeing the extreme overcut from Gianni Lutsu, who is still lapping out there faster than any other car has all race long. He's on his fifth flying lap on this stint, and he's lapped faster than every single car in the field apart from Brandon Levin.
That's pretty crazy there. Gianni Lutsu down in 22nd with great pace, but we keep our eye here on this battle for 12th. Biancucci will be looking in his mirrors, but really looking in his mirrors will be Dean Hunt, as Ridley almost fancy to look up the inside of turn 1. I think, though, Ridley will definitely be aware that trying a move at turn 1, not always the best way to go about it, especially if you try to go for a dive, because turn 1 is very quick and you have to commit to turning in very early. So if the driver ahead of you doesn't know you're coming, then you'll certainly come together. Have a look at the pace, though, that Dean Hunt has through turn 4, almost lining a move up here on Biancucci coming into turn 5. But once again, Biancucci, he's very familiar with defending into that hairpin now and continuing to do so.
You're talking about turn 1 as well. Oh, that's a mistake from Hunt. Turn 1 as well. Ridley off into the grass there to try and not get contact. I'll come back to my point soon, but Levin now involved in this too. His recovery. I always find it ironic when a car gets a drive-through penalty, they serve the drive-through and they come out with the driver that they made contact with. I always find that hilarious. And have a look at who's together. Levin and Hughes. They're back together. Turn 1, as you said, too, downhill, but the other part of that corner that does deceive a lot of drivers and they don't expect is how wide that corner is too, which then opens up turn 2 as a over and under possibility. So you do have to commit through turn 1, but you also have to commit through turn 2. Brandon Levin's decided, no, these tyres are getting way too hot. I'm coming in. Rob Crisdale also into the pits from P number 5.
Yeah, so Crisdale is going to be the benchmark by which these guys judge, as it's a defensive line from Anthony Jewell. This might work out in Tyson Broad's favour, potentially. Jewell is really starting to feel the pressure, and you see how much Broad is working the wheel there on exit. Bit of oversteer to boot. These cars do have traction control, so you don't have to worry all that much about the tyres spinning up when you're on the tarmac, at least. But still have to take care. Now right on the bumper is Tyson Broad on Anthony Jewell and gets a slightly better exit from the chicane. He can't take advantage of it, though, into this long right-hander across the top of the hill. But nice have a look at that. Yeah, much better exit there for Broad. Jewell's going to go defensive again. Leaves him just enough room on the outside. And now into the hairpin. It looks like Jewell is going to keep it. Broad maybe trying to line up the exit of the corner. Maybe not. Doesn't quite work out in his favour. He is taking those late apexes, though. He knows that he's getting in Anthony Jewell's head now.
The only issue he's got is now he has to be careful of those guys that he can't see around him. Those guys that have pitted, he now has to keep an eye on them on the clock. Often can be distracting to do. He's got to be careful about Crisdale and his pace coming through. Mike Pepper knows that the guy that he is battling is Crisdale and is coming to the pits to make sure there isn't a huge undercut.
That he is, and it looks like Tyson Broad just moving into the lead. Oh, just about. Round the outside of turn 1. Can he get it done? The leaders make contact. Anthony Jewell recovers. Great save there, but Tyson Broad gets into the lead of the race.
Probably not the way he wanted to get it done, but move's a move, and maybe there'll be a redressing coming because he did squeeze him very, very close to the edge of the track. Jewell probably brought most of the contact on himself, but race control will have a second look at that and probably a third and fourth look. And my initial thinking is there's no further action going to come from that one. Further action, though, for Ross Tallon. He's got another drive-through penalty, unfortunately.
Oh, man, that is a real shame for Ross Thallen. He's had a very frustrating night so far. As we check out Ridley and Biancucci, who are now fighting over 10th on track. Remember, these guys haven't pitted yet.
The big lockup. And I just want to quickly go back to this. We said about Pepper coming in because of Crisdale pitting. Have a look at how much they've come out apart, around about 1.5 seconds. That was the gap that they had before the pit stops happened. So Pepper's negated any potential advantage that Rob Crisdale was going to have with those fresh tyres by pitting straight away. Maintains the gap.
Yes, indeed. It looks to me like Crisdale's pit stop was about a second faster than Pepper's was, so that might have factored into it, as there's more drivers coming into the pits now from in the top 10. Anthony Jewell goes in, Jesse Butler and Brody Watts follow.
Watts was very hot coming in there. I'm a bit worried about his pit lane speed, but I think he might have got it down in time, but he was very, very close, and I'm sure he'll be looking over his shoulder to make sure that he's okay. I can't see any black flags issued in iRacing, so it looks like he might have got away with that. In comes Hunt as well. Dean Hunt in the 47 car bringing it in. So another 4 pit stops. We're past halfway. Only, 15 minutes left in the pit window. Not long to go. But the one we need to watch is Anthony Jewell when he comes out, where he is, and what that does with Tyson Broad.
Yeah, Broad's still out on track. He's got Trevor Hearn and Alex Zani behind him in the top 3 positions. Cameron Edwards also fighting his way forward now into 4th place. But it looks like everyone now, except for the top 10, have come into the lane. We've still got Ross Thalen.
That was a long stop for Jewell.
Oh, yeah. That was a... I think it's...
Well, he's going to lose out to Crisdale here.
Oh, yeah, he is. Well, Crisdale with a bit more momentum there coming into turn 1. And Crisdale, wow, that's going to really work out in his favour. I think that's effective second at the moment now for Rob.
Well, I actually think it's going to be effective first, because I'm going to get a replay up. On this lap, Tyson Broad has made a mistake and lost about a second.
Oh, dear. Okay. Those worn tyres not working in Tyson Broad's favour, so we could be looking at Rob Crisdale taking the win here at Barcelona with a very well-timed stop. Here's what happened then to Tyson Broad, and surprise, surprise, it looks like it's at the chicane, and no, actually got
slow,
through that pretty good.
He lost a second right here, so he's just got a little slide on, missed the apex, run it wide. There's cones, there's grass, there's dirt. He's had to slow down, lost himself a second in pace.
And he's just come into the pits himself, so he's at a stop now. Alex Zani, Cameron Edwards, David Hughes and Neil Woodburn are all staying out. We'll keep an eye to see what goes on for Rob Crisdale. Trevor Hearn, Kyle Ridley, Ray Oliver, Peter Biancucci and Justin McLean also coming into the lane now. So we'll wait and see now where Crisdale comes out. He's on the left side of your screen. Tyson Broad is on the right, and Broad is just coming up to the end of his pit stop now. He'll... that looks like a pretty quick stop there from Tyson Broad. Only stopped for 35 seconds. This could still potentially work out in his favour. Looks like it has.
Yeah, he's come out of this okay. I mean, it's going to be a second and a half, but it's going to be okay. 2 seconds as they come into turn 1. Cold tyres versus hot tyres, going to get it down to about a second and a half. So Broad's done a very, very good job to maintain this gap. I'm surprised that he's been able to do it. Anthony Jewell will be absolutely kicking himself with how long that pit stop was. 4 seconds longer stop for Jewell from Broad.
I think it's actually an abnormally quick stop from Tyson Broad, because I'm looking down through the field. The next quickest stop is Grant Johnson, 36.9. And pit stop times in iRacing are often determined by how well you line it up in the pit box, because it is simulated that, you know, if you hit your mark slightly wrong, the pit crew take a little bit of extra time to get your tyres on. So maybe Broad just got lucky there.
Yeah, I think he's just landed it on the spot perfectly and got out of the pits absolutely perfectly. Someone who didn't get into the pits perfectly was Kyle Ridley. He got a speeding in pit lane penalty, 45-second stop and hold penalty, resulting in an 81-second pit stop.
That's going to sting. Well, the fight will continue here as our last 2 cars jump into the lane, Zani and Edwards. And they're halfway through their stops at the moment. Broad and Crisdale will definitely make their way past these guys post-haste. But Tyson now starting to come up to a bit of lapped traffic in the form of Ross Thalen, who has had an absolutely torrid race with 2 penalties. Zani and Edwards return to the racetrack, and they're going to come out in just about 8th and 9th. Could be 10th and 11th potentially, depending on what these guys do here. Justin McLean and Brandon Levin, it looks like they're just going to come out in front of them, but remember, cold tyres. They do take a little bit to come up to temperature, and the pace is with Justin McLean right now. Edwards is up 7 places, but McLean is up 16 and looking to make it 17 as Edwards is a little bit wide on the exit of turn 3. So Justin McLean goes, yes please, inside of turn 4. Thank you very much, sir.
Nice move in the end there to get that done. So yeah, McLean absolutely powered through this field, hasn't he? He's done a great job. I mean, he finished the first race out of position. We know that. We know that he got a penalty. We know that he wasn't able to finish the races. Those new tyres for Cam Edwards, they're not going to be helping him now. And he and Brandon Lev have just had an incident together there.
Well, they did indeed. And making their way past Ross Thalen, who has to stay out of the way of these guys all fighting incredibly quickly. And Mike Pepper and Trevor Hearn will be happy to be holding on to the positions that they are, but now that all of these guys have completed their pit stops, this sets it up for a very interesting final 15 minutes of this race. Crisdale leading this pack. Meanwhile, we check out the replay here of what happened with Cameron Edwards. Oh, dearie me. Just getting the rears locked up a little bit, I think, coming into turn 5. There is traction control, but no anti-lock brakes, and there goes Jesse Butler on Anthony Jewell, trying to get the move done, but Jewell defending into the corner. Some pretty heads-up driving and borderline driving from these guys, making ever so slight bits of contact. Can Butler line up Jewell on the way into turn 4? Jewell goes defensive. Butler on the racing line. Can he maintain this side-by-side for a run up the inside into turn 5? It looks like he will. Jewell is having a lot of trouble keeping that car straight on the exit of the corner and into the next corner as well. So close to contact between them. And wow, this is fantastic. Jesse Butler. Oh, don't make contact with him there, mate. Oh, just unsettled Jewell enough. Jewell's going to keep trying, but gets forced off the track and loses 2 positions.
Yeah, I think Jewell defended that way too aggressively. He didn't need to defend it that aggressive. Probably would have just lost the 1 spot, but that little bit of contact forced him offline, forced him to make an error, forced him to have a huge moment, lose a spot, and almost makes contact into the back of Brodie Watts there as he's trying to regain his composure, regain his pace. Can't quite do it. He's got to be very careful. Take a bit of a breath here and try go again. Interesting, while these guys have been going as well, they're just letting Mike Pepper and Trevor Hearn catch up. The other point I want to make is Brodie Watts has set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 39.2. That is not far off what these guys were doing in qualifying.
Yeah, not too far at all. Now that the fuel is coming down on these cars, you're definitely getting closer to the pace that you would have seen in qualifying. Only 12 minutes to go now in this race. And Anthony Jewell is dropping, isn't he? Now Trevor Hearn and Mike Pepper will fancy a move past him. Actually, no, that is Mike Pepper we were taking a look at. My apologies. Hearn winding on the lock through turn 3. Maybe scrubbing the tyres a little bit too much, but I think Jewell can breathe a sigh of relief considering those guys are battling as hard as they are.
Yeah, and they're going side by side into the wrong sections of the track, so that they're going side by side into the corners that really lose a lot of ground. There's other corners where you can go side by side. It doesn't cost you as much pace, but at the moment they're fighting in the wrong spots, fighting the wrong battles, letting those guys that they just caught up to break away a tiny little bit. Gap between Jewell and Pepper is a second. They don't want it to go much further than that. I think the little flash of the headlights there from Trevor Hearn was, hey, we don't need to fight at the moment. We need to work together, catch up to these guys, and we can both get through, and then we can both continue to fight in our battle.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way it goes, but it's still defensive from Mike Pepper. Hearn trying his best to pick up the slipstream. This is compromising the both of them. They are dropping off the back of that battle for second now.
Yeah, they are for sure. In saying that, Jewell's dropping off as well, so he may have a little bit of damage from that wheel-to-wheel contact we saw between he and Butler. So there is a chance that Jewell will drop back into this group, and to be fair, it is now a 3-car battle for second. Now a 3-car battle for 5th. In saying that, it's about to be a couple more because, well, actually, those guys behind are actually lap down cars, are they not? No. I'll shut up. We're 3 cars and 3 cars.
Yeah, indeed we are. And
so
there is...
Tyson Broad also, sorry to cut you off there, Reese, he lost a 1.5 seconds on that lap too, so he's had another slowdown penalty through the second to last corner. That's the 10 car of Harvey there letting these guys through. But that does help Brodie Watts almost get close enough to make a move there on Jesse Butler.
Speaking of Jesse Butler, he's had a really good last few laps. He made up quite a few positions coming out of the lane, and he could potentially be lining Crisdale up for a move sooner rather than later. He's a little bit deep into turn 5 though, so that makes him lose touch with him.
Oh no!
Oh no! That's Pepper into the wall, and wondering if Trevor Hearn made contact with him there. Looking a bit further back, yes, it looks like they have. And, this is going to be a very painful incident, and I think it might result in a penalty for Trevor Hearn. Watch this then. It happens in a few corners' time, so they're fighting nicely through turns 3 and 4. Pepper going defensive, diving down on the inside, but have a look here at Trevor Hearn. He gets alongside into turn 5 and will maintain the outside line on the exit. Unfortunately, coming back onto the racetrack, they make contact, and Pepper gets spun into the wall. I don't know if that's a case of Pepper not leaving enough room or Hearn trying to force the issue.
It's another one of those ones where we're glad we're here and not in race control. I'd have a horrible time. I would get splinters from sitting on the fence with so many of these decisions. Gianni Lutsu back in the pit, so he obviously hasn't officially cleared his pit lane pit stop requirements, or wants to be 100% sure that there's no issues in regards to serving it under a black flag and then coming in again. So he's just double checking, I think, and you can see in the background there Mike Pepper coming in. That car is destroyed. Positive to come out of it is that they all do have one fast repair, so he can repair his car instantly, get back out on the track. The only thing I'm worried about is how bad is his emotional damage from that, because he won't be too happy with that incident. As Jesse Butler, he's not worrying about the tyre life. He's absolutely tearing them to shreds.
Yeah, pushing a little bit too hard, I think, is Butler in his pursuit of Robert Crisdale. It's certainly brought Brodie Watts right back into it, hasn't it? Coming into the final sector. Oh, man, he's just having trouble hooking up the throttle. When you spin up the rears like that, when you have a slide on corner exit, it completely ruins the grip available to you when you get on the throttle next. And with the acceleration zones around this circuit being as important as they are, man, I think that Butler, he might have a chance here as Crisdale has a poor run out of the final corner, gets into the gravel trap, and it looks like the momentum is definitely with Jesse Butler at this stage. Crisdale goes preemptively defensive, Butler pushing as hard as he can into the braking zone, but for the time being, Crisdale is going to stay ahead. He is slightly offline through turns 1 and 2. This might give the run to Jesse Butler coming into turn 4.
What a cool fight this is. For second place too, remember. That's what makes this battle really cool.
Yeah, Crisdale looking to back up his double podium at Phillip Island with a podium here at Barcelona. He's going to have to put on the defensive drive, though, as Butler catches the curb on the inside. Got to take it easy. Here's a replay, meanwhile. Peter Biancucci.
Grant Johnson having a shocker.
Oh, wow. That's huge there for Johnson, clattering over the curbs, and another driver involved in that as well. That's a shame there. Levin was definitely looking to improve from his earlier penalty, but not going to be much chance of that now.
Black flag for Trevor Hearn.
Oh.
So you said that you thought that there may be a penalty incoming for Hearn from that incident where he and Mike Pepper got involved. You were 100% right. So Trevor Hearn, P6 at the moment. That will drop him a long way down, and he'll probably end up finding himself battling with the likes of Gianni Lutsu, who's come in for his second pit stop. Indeed.
Well, it's definitely a case of what could have been for many drivers here tonight. Instantly coming into the lane is Trevor Hearn to serve that penalty. And we check out the battle for 9th here. Cameron Edwards and Ray Oliver, two of the guys behind this series, taking it nice and easy there. The opposite of what these guys are doing. The battle for 2nd with Rob Crisdale still trying to fend off Jesse Butler here. And Butler has dragged Brodie Watts along with him. Proper three-car fight for second place. Could it be inside here for Butler? No. Chrisdale goes defensive once again, but Butler is going to hook it up round the outside. Oh no, Chrisdale was able to just put the power down a little bit harder, a little bit earlier. Big defensive drive through the first sector. And the first sector here is one of those places where you can absolutely take the defensive line into pretty much every single corner.
Yeah, you can be very defensive here and hold your spot. The downfall is if you hold your spot too aggressively, you'll find yourself losing too much time. But starting to get a couple of battles happening out on track at the same time. We've ended up with the pit lane penalty for Trevor Hearn. He's come out right with Cam Edwards and Ray Oliver, so he's found himself right in the battle for 8th. So we watch the battle for 2nd going on at the same time.
So the two big battles in the top 10 there. Johnny Lutzu's still making up positions further down the field. He's past David Hughes for 14th place. So what's going to happen here? I think that Hearn getting a bit of a chance to cool his tyres back down might have a slight pace advantage here over Cameron Edwards for the time being, but the pressure of having a driver behind you in your mirrors is certainly nothing to sneeze at. Speaking of mirrors, Rob Chrisdale's going to have to look into them sooner rather than later, because you see Jesse Butler having a slight look there. Big defense from Chrisdale coming into the first corner, and Butler cannot make the apex as a result of that.
Good job from Chrisdale to hold onto that spot. He could have quite easily just let Butler have a little bit of room up the inside, but he committed very, very well to the corner. And one thing I also want to point out is that Tyson Broad is not pulling away from these guys. They're maintaining pace. They're ebbing and flowing a little bit, but it's not really gaining or getting away from much more than 2 seconds, and it hasn't over the last couple of laps. So this three-car fight for second, one minor mistake, one slowdown penalty, which Tyson Broad has already had twice in this race, could bring it into a 4-car battle for the lead and 4-car battle for the win.
Anything can happen in 3 minutes. We've certainly seen that in evidence tonight. Doesn't look like the best of exits for Chrisdale there from the right-hander. This might open him up to Jesse Butler. Staying defensive, though, is Oz Rob, with Mr. Butler trying his best. Oh, that was a lock-up from Chrisdale. He's gone off, and Butler will take that position.
Yeah, that's just contact from Chrisdale's big lock-up there, and he's dropped all the way to 5th. So he's lost a spot to Jewel as well as Watts and Butler, who are right behind. So he's going to have to work hard to do this all over again. The downfall he's got is there's 2 laps remaining. We don't have to worry and guess about the clock this time. We know that there's going to be 2 to go.
Absolutely. Well, Tyson Broad continuing to set the pace front of the field or thereabouts, but really pace being set by Alex Zanni, 1 minute 40.5 on the last lap for the driver in 6th place. And you see this battle here. Well, Justin McLean has gotten himself involved in this battle somehow in 8th place, and passing Cameron Edwards. Ray Oliver is still there. We've also got to think about Trevor Hearn too, because Hearn, having taken that penalty up into up beyond those cars in 7th place. Oh, Edwards fancying a little look there at McLean, but it's not going to happen. McLean putting on an excellent drive, has to be said, after getting the penalty in race 1. As we
Cam
see
Edwards
those
has done
two
well
fights.
too. Remember, qualified way back in 22nd. He's worked his way through over the 2 races, but McLean, regardless of how he finishes this race, this is driver of the day material based on the drive that he's done in this race. My concern for him is that he's pushed too hard and his tyres are really struggling at this point, because you saw how quickly both Hearn and Edwards have closed up to him. So we'll see if he can hold on to the spot and see if he can push on for what will be 1.5 more laps. So the leaders come up to the finish line to start 1 to go.
So it looks like it's going to be a 24-lap race we're going for here, as Tyson Broad makes his way across the start-finish line, gets the white flag. And he's got enough of a gap now over Butler and Watts that he can afford to back off a little bit more. But that battle for second is certainly not over. Watts could certainly pull a move on Butler, and Edwards here right in the thick of the battle for the last few positions in the top 10. Can he make his way Back past Justin
Oh.
McLean. Oh, McLean going into the lane again.
I said that I thought he might be struggling on tyres, but I was wondering now if he was struggling in regards to fuel. He might not have enough fuel to finish the race and has decided it's better to come in. Also just seen that Brandon Levin has got past Dean Hunt on this lap as well. So final lap doesn't mean that the race is all settled and calming down. Plenty still going on. Battle for second still ongoing.
Butler versus Watts, and this battle with Biancucci and Levin still not figured out either. Levin up the inside into turn one. Biancucci was earlier on the brakes and was able to get it done on him. It looks like Butler has managed to pull out a little gap over Brodie Watts here in the first half of the lap. So looks like barring a mistake, he might be safe there for second place. Butler was the fastest car on track on the last lap. So now that he's got that clear air up ahead of him, he's certainly put the power down. It's going to be a pair of second place finishes for him. But just up ahead, Tyson Broad, once again, on the top step of the podium after taking it in race 2 at Phillip Island also. Tyson Broad is your winner in race 2.
Great drive, good recovery from what was not the best by his standards race 1. So he'll be happy with coming back for a win there. Jesse Butler and Brodie Watts come across the line in second and third. Great job from those guys. This battle's still ongoing between Biancucci, Hunt and Lutzu. Gianni Lutzu's got into this fight now too. He's looking for a top 12 to recover after 2 pit stops and a 1.5 minute pit stop from a penalty at the start of the race from a starting infringement. He has recovered very, very well. And he might get this spot here. This is going to be very tight.
Oh, dive up the inside. Biancucci
he's going to get
slow. No! Oh, Brandon Levin off the track. And Gianni Lutzu does indeed cross the line there in 11th place. But my goodness, that was...
I think Biancucci ran out of fuel.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I think that was very lucky for him to get to the checkered flag when he did. Oh my goodness. Get another view of that and listen to this.
No speed, revs dropping. Yep, definitely out of fuel.
Wow. So very lucky was Biancucci to cross the line, and lucky 13th place, 10 places up from where he started. But Tyson Broad will certainly be the championship leader after this round, with Gianni Lutzu not getting the finish that he would have wanted. Broad finishes 2.5 seconds ahead of Butler, with Watts completing the podium. Anthony Jewell, the pole sitter, holds on to 4th place. Robert Crisdale, well, he was in contention for 2nd place there, but unfortunately his car was not under him. He has to settle for 5th. Alex Zanni finishes in 6th. It's Trevor Hearn, Cameron Edwards, Ray Oliver and Brandon Levin who round out the top 10.
Yeah, from there we've got Gianni Lutzu, finishes 11th, controversially at the end there, but what a recovery considering he was in 24th position at the end of the 3rd lap to get all the way back into there with 2 pit stops. Very, very well done. David Hughes finishes in 12th. Peter Biancucci, a night of up and downs, but he got lots of TV time. Not all good, but some of it was. He had a good end there to the race in 13th position, just not the way we would have wanted for Dean Hunt to finish in 15th. In between them, though, Justin McLean, Sam Dora, and then Kyle Ridley, Anthony Connors, Nathaniel Coburn. Grant Johnson will be excited to leave Spain because he experienced it without the S tonight. Neil Woodburn, Clint Harvey, Ross Allen, Ben Brazier all finished the race. DNFs though to Mike Pepper, unfortunately, with that incident we saw with 7 laps to go, and George Corey, who finished early on. Unfortunate for him. What a night of racing we've had though.
What a night of racing indeed, and we can get a chance to talk to some of our drivers about it. First up, we've got Tyson Broad. Well, Tyson, race 1 didn't quite go to plan for you, neither did qualifying, but coming back for the win in race 2 must feel good.
Yeah, it was a absolutely shocking qualifying and race 1 for me. And yeah, race 2, obviously I knew I was starting from the front, so I kind of had to make the most of it. And I certainly did that.
Can you talk us through what the issues were in qualifying in race 1? Because we did notice that the track temperature was quite high. Did that have something to do with it?
Not really. I just didn't put a good lap together in qualifying, and then race 1 got punted at turn 4. And so yeah, I was basically just trying to make my way through the pack after that. Managed to get up to the 9th, so that's good. And especially considering that Gianni didn't have a good feature race, so I think I gained more points than him.
Yeah, pretty sure you did, and that might guarantee you the championship lead coming into round 3 at Oran Park. That's where the Summer Series made its broadcast debut here on SimSpeed TV, and it was certainly a chaotic one. How are you going to approach that? A very tight track, very different to this one.
Well, I wasn't here for the start of the Summer Series. I was delayed by 2 rounds. But yeah, from what I watched, it seemed to be quite a tight racetrack, and I think traffic's going to be an issue in qualifying, and especially in the first race, maybe even in the second one. But yeah, especially with the lap being so short, pit strategy could really decide who wins and who loses.
Very good point there. Well, Tyson, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank for your racing tonight?
Just my esports series organisers and you guys for putting on the broadcast.
That's Tyson Broad there, race 2 winner. Next up, we have Brody Watts in the box with us. Brody, looked like, once again, it was a story of 2 different races for you. 8th to 14th in race 1, but then 14th up to a podium position in race 2. Talk us through it.
Yeah, really happy with the overall result. First race, sort of going into turn 4, a bit of contact from behind, and yeah, ended up taking a couple other cars out with me, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, really happy with the second race. Things sort of fell into place, which is yeah, really happy with how it ended up.
Well, coming through to the rest of this season, what do you think of the schedule? Because we go back to Australia to Oran Park for round 3, but then it's a very varied schedule. We go to places like Road America and Spa before we end the season at Bathurst. We're certainly looking forward to how these cars tackle those tracks. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we raced Oran Park last year, and that was a little bit of it's a tough circuit for these sort of cars. So I think it'll be pretty important to get a good qualifying in and just to keep out of trouble. And yeah, really looking forward to going to Road America, which we haven't been to before in the series. Just those high speed straights, long straights. I think they'll go make for some really good racing.
Agree on that. Anyone you'd like to thank for tonight, Brody?
Thanks to 949 Motorsports for yeah, my team. So yeah, thanks for getting the livery and making the car look pretty, and yeah, all the support you give me.
Certainly was a pretty car there. It's a podium for Brody Watts tonight, and that's going to bring proceedings to an end, Jay. As we mentioned, we're racing at Oran Park next round on June the 1st. Well, it'd be interesting to see if there's any kind of turnaround from round 1 of the Summer Series, because we saw how chaotic that was. The drivers are going to have it cut out for them there. 100%.
It was a really interesting, eventful, exciting, and championship changing, despite it being round 1 race there last time to start off the season last time out. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favourite tracks, one that we don't race enough. I mean, it's an Australian staple. We need to go there more. Cannot wait for it. It's going to be very, very good fun.
As we said, you can catch that on the 1st of June. Before we go, another thanks to our series sponsors, V8 Drive Day Perth, West Australian Automotive Equipment, Word of Mouth Signs, V-Race Experience, Motum Simulation, and 24/7 Sim Services handling race control. I'm Reese Gardner. It's Jay Kennedy alongside me. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we say bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you in Australia for the next round.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.